Hi everyone, thank you for inviting me to the conference. I will share my PowerPoint. Let me just make it bigger. Can you all see it? I'm sure you can. Yes, can see it. Okay, so I don't have a slide to introduce me. Some of you know me already. My name is Helena El Masri. I've been a trainer since 2000. I was trained last century, so a long time ago. I've been training interpreters since 2000, and I trained the home office interpreters from 2002 to 2006 in Croydon. I have started DPSI Online in 2009, training mainly interpreters for the DPSI exams, and I will go through those in a second. But now I have quite a lot of training added to that. So without further ado, I will go on to the courses. This is the career path for interpreters and translators. Madeline, has already mentioned the difference between interpreter and translator, so I won't go there. But basically, when someone asks me, where do I start? What do? I want to become an interpreter. My main point will be to go and read about community interpreting. Why? Because sometimes at level 6, the training doesn't include certain aspects that are included at level 3. So level 3 is a good knowledge base to start interpreting and gaining some practice to then move on to a level 6 diploma in public service interpreting or a diploma in police interpreting, bearing in mind that the London Met Police is the main police force that requires the DPI. All other police forces accept the DPSI law. And of course, many public service interpreters then go on to newer pastures and enroll in a master's in conference interpreting, which is a completely different setting. To become a translator, you can start with a level 7 diploma in translation, or you can go on to a master's in translation. I put foundation course in translation there because we do now offer a course that includes theory, and I'll go through that in a second, and prepares you for the diploma in translation exam, but it's not a master's in translation. So very quickly through the level 3 in community interpreting, most courses take 12 weeks to complete. They can take 16 weeks to complete, but this is pretty much what DPSI Online covers on a level 3. The introduction to the course and the introduction to community interpreting. Then we cover 7 service providers, which are healthcare and sexual health, mental health, social services, education, housing, welfare benefits, and immigration. Those are covered in detail each week with practice alongside, so role plays, site translations, glossary building, which enables then the interpreter to have the accurate terminology to interpret in those settings. Weeks 9 to 11, we cover ethics, which we base them on the National Register Code of Conduct, CPD, of course, cultural awareness, which is very important when working in the community, telephone interpreting and remote interpreting now, because obviously a lot of work is done remotely. And the last week is really the business of interpreting, because once you have your qualification, what you do, you need to set up as a freelancer, and you need to know how to enroll with agencies, how to register as a self-employed, etc. And then you have the final assessments, and obviously we hope that everyone meets the criteria to get a certificate and be able to work as a community interpreter. I put a note there because there are a lot of courses. This is, I offer courses in the UK, and there are many courses available, but not all of the courses have a tutor and live classes, even though our classes are all remote on Zoom, but they have a live tutor and a group of 10 people. So once you do your level 3, you move on to a level 6. So it's kind of a ladder that you kind of climb with time and practice. And the level 6 diploma in public service interpreting has 3 options. We only offer 2, the law and health, because local government is not one of the most popular. And on this course, most students take between 6 to 8 months to complete the course, and then they go on to do the exam. And I just briefly put the modules for the law option, which cover types of crime, police powers and procedures, including witness statement taking, civil and criminal law, probation and prison, immigration, civil and family law, and local government. I touch on local government in the DPSI law because many aspects of the government are legal, like care proceedings in social services, benefit fraud, and eviction, and sometimes even bankruptcy. There have been cases I interpreted for a bankruptcy case in the county court. So those are legal aspects of the community that I like to include in our DPSI law. And the health DPSI covers obviously the structure of the NHS in the UK, health professionals, sexual health and pregnancy, and childbirth, and all the immunizations for children, the human body in detail, because at level 7 interpreters will have more complex cases to interpret in, oncology and palliative care for both adults and children, mental health, and again, private healthcare and alternative medicine. We find a lot of interpreters working privately in these settings. So once you complete the level 6 preparatory course, normally an interpreter goes on to do the exam to get their diploma. Before I go on to the translation, we also offer some specialized training, which I didn't include here because they are specific for certain areas. But I would like to mention the level 4 in interpreting for victims of crime, because it has been mentioned traumatic cases where interpreters work in. So it would be perhaps a good course for interpreters to look into if you want to be a trauma-informed interpreter, especially for those like Mir was mentioning that work in humanitarian settings with refugees in camps. It is a lot more emotional than perhaps interpreting for a GP for someone with a backache. And we also offer English speaking for interpreters for 2 years now, because we have had these requests from interpreters. We all have an accent, even though sometimes we say, what accent? But yes, we do, as foreigners, all have an accent, and we should all work on our diction, on how we articulate words in English, and sometimes even in our own language, because sometimes we rush when we speak and then we don't pronunciate things correctly. So we do offer those 2 courses for interpreters as well. And for the diploma in translation, as you can see, there is a higher level as you go. So to become a translator, you really need to have the level 7 diploma in translation. Even though the DPSI has a written component, those translation skills are really to translate things related to interpreting, not to become a translator and translate manuals or patents or things like that. We do offer short courses for experienced translators who want to just get a diploma, and they take 3 months to complete. It's just practice past papers to get ready for the exam. And the foundation course that I mentioned is a bit longer. It takes from 9 months to 1 year to complete, but it does include a lot of theory and ethics for translators, and how to tackle the general papers and the specialized, semi-specialized papers of the exam. So the practice and the theory go alongside. And then in the last 3 months of the course, we cover CAT tools, because let's face it, most interpreters are using either Trados or MemoQ, so it will be important for them to learn about that. I'm even thinking of adding machine translation one of these days, because again, agencies are using more and more machine translation. And the last module is business of translation, because I am a firm believer that interpreters and translators need to know what to do after they have their little piece of paper in their hand. So there is a lot of information on how to set up as a freelance translator. And below is just some information about the exam that you will then have to sit. So I'm conscious of the time. So I just wanted to very quickly, these are kind of three of the main questions that I'm always asked. Why do I need to follow a course? Because let's face it, they are not mandatory for some exams or for many exams. I always say that it should be mandatory because you always need to have the feedback of a professional to make sure that you are interpreting correctly or translating correctly before you actually sit your exam. Let's face it, the pass rate of the exam is quite low. Even for people who follow a course, there's still a 75% pass rate for those who follow a course. So it's still not 100%. So you need to put a lot of effort into preparing yourself for these exams. What's the advantages of following a course? Well, that depends on the course you follow, but I think that the advantages is that you have time to learn the topics, especially legal terminology and settings, because let's face it, not everyone has worked with solicitors and in courts like I did, but it takes time to research, to practice in different settings, and to learn what's required in the exam, what examiners are looking for. And you need the guidance of someone with experience. That's why we all, in all my courses, we offer a tutor in the language, because they are in the position to guide the students to improve their skills and to get ready for the exams. And why are preparatory courses expensive? Well, because they have tutors, they have live people training you, and that is the main reason and difference between a course that is expensive and one that isn't. So why bother getting trained? Well, I think because it shows that you are committed to the profession as a professional interpreter, be it community interpreter or public service interpreter or conference interpreter. And recently the NHS has actually stated that spoken language interpreters should have the DPSI Health and should be on the national register. So this is, again, we see that there is a trend in organization bodies to trying to improve standards in interpreting. And recently in a debate, Baroness Cousins also mentioned that 50% of interpreters that had been subjected to spot checks actually did not fare very well on those checks. So there is a need for training. There is a need to be a trained interpreter to perform at professional level. And as you probably all know, and I've read as well, that again, Baroness Cousins has announced in the House of Lords that there is a need for a minimum standards for interpreters. So again, being on the national register, having a level 6 qualification should be a must with experience to ensure high standards. And like Simona was saying, interpreting is a lifelong profession. We never stop learning. So if you have any questions and you want to know more about the courses, you can join the DPSI Online community on Facebook and ask questions from other people that actually did the course. You can also, send an email to info@linguistscollective.com. And thank you for listening.